Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian calls this movie an adventure which reaches back to Golden Age Hollywood in the devil-may-care world of Douglas Fairbanks or Tyrone Power playing Zorro, or Errol Flynn playing Robin Hood. Variety magazine calls it a postmodern fairy tale that challenges and affirms the conventions of a genre that may not be flexible enough to support such horseplay. And David Jenkins of Little White Lies asks, shall we rewind and give it another spin? As you wish. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of the Princess Bride.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? The Ruined Childhoods Podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters. It's time for Ruined Childhoods. And
It's time.
It's
It's time for Ruined Childhoods because you decided, because
Yes.
it's a podcast,
Yes.
and the controls are at your fingertips.
Whenever you are listening to this is time for Ruined Childhoods.
Dan, I'm sorry that I make fun of you every time you start an episode. I really am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It bothers me. It's, put me back into therapy and, I'm drinking again.
You keep recording these episodes with me, so it's all your fault.
I know. I signed up for this shit. All right. Anyway, it's on now.
Yeah. So for anybody who's listening for the first time, this is a podcast where the two of us, that's Dan.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm John. We're brothers. We've been in each other's ears for decades talking about movies. And on this podcast, we're talking about, I guess, mostly cult and classic movies and kind of discussing how they could be re-envisioned or brought back into the world in present day in terms of reboots, remakes, prequels, sequels. We will eventually get into adaptations, but we're not there yet.
Actually, John, we are. We are almost literally there.
But we're not talking about a book that has yet to be adapted.
Correct. Yeah, that's
We're not
true.
talking about
That's
a piece
true.
of IP that has never been touched.
No, that's true.
In fact,
intellectual property IP.
sorry, I'm not talking about my bathroom habits.
Your internet. I was thinking internet. Like, yeah.
I was
Your
talking about IP.
address. Yeah, IP freely. But anyway, no. But I guess kind of what started this all is just there's. It's like if the internet doesn't have something to get upset about, the internet would not be the internet. And I mean, granted, it would probably be a better world, but there's no turning back. And we know that the internet is, always ripe for discussion, and people like to drop ideas and start rumors. And that's also where a lot of projects are announced. So there's often a lot of hubbub around Twitter and Facebook and all the message boards and everywhere else where people post
Your
these
Reddits.
things. I don't know. I'm like
yous.
on the AOL.
Keyword remake. Keyword ruined
mail.
childhoods.
So, anyway,
so-
it's all these things that come up, and that always that there's a rumor that this is going to be remade. Are they turning this into a movie? Or they're doing a sequel to. It always is preceded by the
And if you've listened to our episode that we did on Speed in one of our pop quiz hotshot rounds, you would know that remakes have been happening since movies have been made.
Since movies have been happening.
Yeah, so I mean, the Great Train Robbery was the very first.
The Great Train Robbery, like 1909, The Great Train Robbery 3, The Great Train Robbery again.
Yeah, so it's absolutely not a new phenomenon. This has been happening since movies have been movies.
And as have sequels. I mean, maybe not as far back as that, but sequels have been around for.
So reboots have been since the Godzillas have been happening. Prequels have been happening since. Not Smoking Man. Butch and Sundance. Butch and Sundance. The early days. Was it the early days or the early years?
Butch and Sundance. The early years.
Yeah, and sequels have been. I forget. I don't remember what
like
the first.
The 20s. I feel
it's been a long time. So because we're recording this just a couple days before the episode comes out, I may as well talk about some things that have been happening in remake news.
Yeah.
So Jason Bateman is in talks to direct the Clue remake.
Okay.
And Ryan Reynolds is also involved. So that's some information. There is a live action Snow White remake in the works.
Like a Disney like a Disney live action. Okay.
I see no problems with doing that as a live action.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, wow, you'd be hard pressed to find some potential problems with that one, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Talk about movies that have been remade a bunch of times. Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are allegedly remaking A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it going to be? Does this have to do with like the Scrooged remake or?
Don't know, but who knows if it's going to be, big major release or made for TV kind of situation or what, but because it's
John, this is 2019. It could be both. I mean, you could have, a situation like Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, which opens in theaters November 1st, and then it's on Netflix November 27th. Which, by the way, after seeing the most recent trailer, and I'm a fan of Scorsese, and I've been waiting. I've kind of been wanting for him and Robert De Niro to work together just at least one more time while they're both still working. And I'm excited for this. The most recent trailer dropped this past week, and I really enjoyed it. I got excited by seeing, all Harvey Keitel and, De Niro and Joe Pesci, and it got me really, really excited for The Irishman. So, I still plan on having my Netflix subscription, but I don't know. I may, if I have the opportunity to catch that one on the big screen, perhaps I shall.
Mm-hmm. No, it looks pretty good to me.
It could be a made for TV or made for streaming and box office hit.
Yeah. And the one other thing that I figured is worth mentioning, I don't know if we've talked about it, but they're remaking House Party, the Kid and Play classic, and it's being produced by LeBron James.
Okay.
And it's written and directed by Reginald Hudlin, who directed the Old Town Road music video, which I haven't seen.
Reginald Hudlin also, I believe, directed House Party, like the original House Party.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
How come that's not coming up in any of these articles?
I'm almost positive because I want to say it was like it got the Hudlin because Reggie, and
I mean, I know he around a long time.
Yeah, no. He wrote and directed House Party, the original House Party. Yes.
Well, that's so funny that it's coming up as everything is saying that it's like, from the Old Town Road music video. I wonder if they're really just catering things to people who don't know anything about House Party.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't know that.
But I mean, also like Reggie Hudlin, he directed Boomerang, and I'm like, this is from memory. I'm going on IMDb right now just to kind of confirm. House Party was his first big movie. He did House Party, then Boomerang. He did The Great White Hype with Sam Jackson, Jeff Goldblum, The Ladies Man with Tim Meadows, which is actually, I gotta tell you, I mean,
I never watched that one.
I saw it once, but as far as like that era of SNL adaptations go, I want to say The Ladies' Man was one of the ones I enjoyed a bit more.
Well, I love
let's
Tim
say
Meadows.
like Superstar.
He's so good.
Tim Meadows is fantastic in it. But yeah, and then it looks like he he did like the Bernie Mac show.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing a lot of TV, but I mean, as far as movies go,
Well, I know he's been around a long time. I just didn't know that he actually did the original House Party. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But Stephen Glover and Jamal Allori, who write for Atlanta on FX, I guess have rewritten the script. So
okay.
I don't know. Have you seen Atlanta? It's really good.
You know what? I started watching it and then just I don't know what happened, but kind of didn't.
You had a
didn't
small
keep up with
child,
it,
and
yeah, I mean, no, that could have been it. I don't know, but yeah. So I didn't. Sorry, I got distracted by something that popped up on my computer screen. Shiny things are distracting me.
focus.
Yeah. So no, but I, by all accounts, Atlanta is just a kind of quality show, top notch, across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it gives me some hope for a House Party remake. And what's interesting about remaking something like House Party is that it is so centered around kid and play. You know, it's one of those movies that it's like the stars of it are really the biggest tentpole, and it's like it was their movie. What's up? You're looking at me.
Did you see? Have you seen House Party, the original House Party?
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it.
Oh,
I've always, you know what? I'm gonna have to check in with the library. It's almost never streaming.
It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I remember coming out. I never saw that. I never saw House Party 2, the one with I think that was the one with the Pajama Jammy Jam, which...
Yeah, I think I saw House Party 2.
Now, I can give you a distinct memory I have involving House Party 2 and involving me, like, seeing a movie in the 90s. I want to say it was 1991 when I went to the New Park Cinema in Roselle Park, New Jersey, to see Freddy's Dead.
Okay.
Which was, it was like Freddy's Dead, The Next Nightmare or something like that. It was basically Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, and it was in 3D. And it was, I mean, wow, awful. But I remember the 3D glasses, or it wasn't like the whole thing was in 3D, but it was like whenever you went into your nightmare, it's like you put on the 3D glasses. And I remember the 3D glasses. They were like the cardboard one of the ones with like the cardboard frames. And I remember like the inside had like the ad for House Party 2 because it was like
that's too funny.
New Line Cinema. So
that is too funny.
But yeah.
By the way, we need to give an update. Our hometown movie theater, the Cranford Theater, was being closed down and it's reopening.
I heard this.
So that's pretty cool. We're going to have to swing by when we're in town next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just look at it.
Yeah. I mean, see what's new about it. I did get a chance to go to my new local movie theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to name it.
No, it's actually though it's the building. It's like a historic movie theater in the Seattle area.
Okay.
And it always reminded me of Cranford because as you know, our faithful listeners would know, the Cranford movie theater used to be a twin cinema, and it was always kind of very exciting, you know, that it was like there were two movies there and everyone in town was going to see like one or the other one. And then it got multiplexed, and it's what happens when a movie theater gets flipped and when it lands, it has a lot more. It gets suplexed, and when it lands on its back, it has a lot more.
That's what happens.
Screens inside. Exactly. So it got multiplexed, and it just kind of reminded me of that. It was also like it's like everybody from town. It was almost like everybody who was at that movie was able to walk there from home, and it was just kind of, it had that, like really small town hometown movie going experience.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of fun. Saw Ad Astra.
And anything you want to mention?
I will say it is, if you're going to see it, it's worth seeing on the big screen. It is, it's another impressive Brad Pitt performance. And because it's a current release, I don't want to say much about it. I do want to say it definitely has that aspect of being, it like in that introspective sci-fi genre where there's obviously you're going to have your comparisons to 2001.
Has he ever been to space before?
Has Brad Pitt been to space before?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if like everybody from the Ocean's movies has yet been to space.
I was like, George Clooney did Gravity, and
Matt Damon was The Martian. George Clooney and Sandra Bullock, Gravity.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Let's see who else has been to space from the Ocean's movies. Has Casey Affleck been to space? Ben Affleck has.
Ben Affleck has been to space. I'm trying to think. Has Don Cheadle been to space?
Been to the space?
Been to the space?
He's been to the space.
I feel like I'm trying to think Armageddon.
Yeah,
I feel like there's got to be somebody from there.
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, but he's not an Ocean's
nope,
actor.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway,
right.
So I also wanted to send a quick apology for getting our last episode out a little bit late. I had some sort of crazy virus running through me that made me feel like Wesley after he went through that torture machine in The Princess Bride.
Dead.
I was mostly dead.
But John, you don't need Wesley does not need to apologize for that. You don't need to apologize for being sick.
The only way I could have gotten around is if Fezzik had dragged me around and propped me into position.
You
but
move
alas,
your head a little bit. I can't do Andre.
Made it happen.
No, John, you don't need to apologize. I need to apologize for something about our last episode.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Nah, because you know what? I gave a shout out to my buddy Ray DeJohn, and I botched. I did not correctly name the hotel. Ray is director of sales and marketing at the Hotel Grand Duca in Austin. And I have not stayed there, but I have seen many, many, many pictures and promotional materials that Ray has shared. And it is a beautiful hotel. If you're going to Austin, check out the Hotel Grand Duca. Go see Ray. Tell him the Enforcer
Dan,
sent you.
You should be ashamed of yourself for making such a grave error.
No, I am. I was, and I promised a full and complete mea culpa on this episode. So,
well, we are here to talk about The Princess Bride.
Yes.
So last week, it was big news around the internet that there were mutterings from the studio that they would be potentially remaking Princess Bride. Cary Elwes came out on Twitter saying, voicing his opposition by turning a Princess Bride quote around. I should probably quote him directly rather than just guessing. Unless
no,
you have
this
it
is worth quoting directly. No, go. Yeah, do you have it up?
Hold on, I'll have it up in a second. But the line in The Princess Bride.
I do have it up.
Okay. So, well, anyway,
have it up too.
The line in The Princess Bride referring to Buttercup threatening to end her own life says that oh my God, I don't know the exact quote, but it's the most perfect pair of breasts would be a pity to ruin them.
There's a shortage of perfect breasts in this world. it would be a pity to ruin yours or to ruin one. And what he said was, there's a shortage of perfect movies in the world. It would be a pity to damage this one.
And Jamie Lee Curtis,
not quite the same. All right.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, who is married to Christopher Guest, who played Count Rugen, the Six-Fingered Man. She does say that as someone who's been married to the Six-Fingered Man for over 30 years or whatever it is, she also voiced her opposition. And to these I say, yes, it's a classic movie, but it's not a perfect movie. No. And remaking this movie would not ruin it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and now whether or not there really needs to be a remake of it is another question. Like the
we'll
purpose, like what purpose would be achieved. Right. But it's not going to ruin your like the Star Wars prequels sucked. They did not ruin my love for episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
Yeah.
Nor should they ruin your enjoyment of any future any of the later Star Wars movies.
Gus Van Sant remade Psycho shot by shot. It was not really that great. It's
famously a bad remake.
It did not at all vitiate the reputation of Alfred Hitchcock and his Psycho.
Scarface is a remake. And that's one where, the remake is the popular one.
Yeah. That's true. And I've never seen the original, I think 1931 Scarface, but
that's proving my case.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes movies are better when they're remade, sometimes they're not, and that's okay. It doesn't change the original.
Right. And then there's the other question of whether this is a remake, a readaptation of the William Goldman novel.
Well, and William Goldman wrote the screenplay adapted from his book. So
Carrie Elwes, by the way, Carrie Elwes was probably upset that this was a planned remake and not a sequel, because a remake would mean there's no roles for him. So
yeah.
Although he was on last season of Stranger Things, so his stock is up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I mean, unless he's coming back as like Miracle Max or, somebody like some.
I have trouble with
character.
that one. Yeah.
Look, I'm just saying. He could come back as
he could be the Six-Fingered Man. He could be Count Rugen.
He could be the king.
He could. Anyway, so yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the original here.
So Princess Bride, it's starring Carrie Elwes, Robin Wright. We got Billy Crystal in there. We have Andre the Giant. We've got Wallace Shawn. We've got
Mandy Patinkin
in a career-defining role for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, and what's funny is, depending on how big of a fan you are of Christopher Guest, you have your own idea of what a career-defining role of his is. But I just have to point out something that I never realized, and that is the connection between Princess Bride and Waiting for Guffman.
Go on.
So Princess Bride co-stars Christopher Guest and Wallace Shawn. And in Waiting for Guffman at the end of the movie, Christopher Guest's character, Corky St. Clair, is showing off his entertainment memorabilia store, and he has action figures of
My Dinner with
Andre. So he's got a Wallace Shawn action figure, because My Dinner with Andre stars two people, and one of them is Wallace Shawn. So
that's very interesting.
It always struck me. I was like, wait a minute. Is there a... I'm like, did they become friendly? Like, what's the connection there? But I never put that together and was really excited. But yeah, like you said, career-making roles. Part of what makes the movie special, I think, is that the leads were really unknowns at that point.
Yeah. I mean, they're essentially children. And Carrie Elwes, he had that kind of swagger to him that was very Errol Flynn, which was, I mean, yes, of course, he also went on to portray Robin Hood, but like that's kind of the swashbuckler. That's kind of his MO in this movie.
Yeah.
So so we've got this really solid cast, and we all not to mention Peter Falk and Fred Savage.
Yep.
Who the movie is the envisionment of the reading of the book from a grandfather to his sick grandchild, which was very, I don't know, it felt important to me rewatching it then as a sick person myself. I was like, oh, I feel this. I get this. I am a Fred Savage right now.
I always connected because I had like every action figure that he had in like on his toy. He had like all the He-Man figures, and it was like the special like the Evil Horde action figures and a Captain America action figure, which I had. So I remember seeing that and thinking like, not only when the movie opens, he's in bed playing this video game, which was a baseball video game that I had for the Commodore 64. So like he was playing this game, and I kind of connected with that. As I believe this was right before Wonder Years. I think this might have been like a year before Wonder Years. So, but that's the setup is Peter Falk, the grandfather, who's come to read the story to this kid must be really sick because like he's a brat, and I kept thinking, I was like, he must be pretty sick. He also thinks that his grandfather is like, lying about what he reads in the book, and is like, as he's watching his grandfather read the book, he's like, no, you got it wrong. Sorry. I'm already jumping into kind of the things because honestly, like watching the movie again, I thought to myself, there's always been, every time I've watched The Princess Bride, hoping to experience the pure magic that a lot of people I know experience during this movie. I'm always like, what has always held me back from that? And I always watched the movie trying to find the magic, and now I kind of watched it trying to find what was holding me back. And that was kind of one of those things was like I understand he's sick, and I understand, he doesn't want it, like the whole part about like, he's reading a book about kissing because he's like 10 in this or whatever.
Right.
So I got all that, but like all that crap he pulls about, like, yelling at his grandfather for what somebody else wrote. Like his grandfather is neither William Goldman nor S. Morgenstern. So
no,
the
he's
fictional
Peter
author
Falk.
of the book. He's Columbo.
No, he's Peter Falk, who was in The Player with Nick Nolte and Susan Sarandon, who were in Lorenzo's Oil.
Oh,
hello.
Wait, I had one. Oh, never mind. I'm all set for our next episode. But
okay.
Excuse me. That's right.
Moving on.
I got all excited. Yeah, don't worry. I'll Lorenzo's Oil you back.
The one thing that was very distracting to me about Peter Falk is his crazy eye when he's like looking up from the book, and his like one eye is still down at the book and the other eye is at Fred Savage. I'm just like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So that's just the mechanism that Rob Reiner uses to tell the story, which I think works really well. I don't know. I kind of liked it at times when it would go from the story to them, and you see the kid get more and more engaged in the book.
I liked it. I think that I think there were a couple of things that would have been, I don't know. Like I'm wondering why, and I love Peter Falk, and he's wonderful and does a great job. But then why not have Peter Falk as Miracle Max? Or why not have Billy Crystal in old age makeup, which Billy Crystal loves, as the grandfather? It would have been interesting. It would have been fun to have, and just like a little, it would have kept that continuity of, hey, this is like, this kid is imagining all this as his grandfather's reading the book.
Oh, so like you're thinking that there should be elements from what we know from his life.
I mean,
So like it would make sense if there was an Andre the Giant action figure in his room.
yes.
And
yes.
His idea of what Fezzik looks like.
Which, by the way, in 1987, the year of Andre the Giant's historic main event match with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 3 in Toronto, an Andre the Giant action figure would not have been, as Ficini would say, inconceivable in the bedroom of a 10-year-old. Case in point,
Exactly.
I had an Andre the Giant action figure in 1987, guaranteed.
You sure did. So, yeah, no, I like that, but I agree that it would be fun for there to be kind of those visual cues from real life.
Because there's a few, like one of the He-Man action figures, like almost looks like it could be one of the rodents of unusual size. So it's kind of like taking the elements of that and putting it into. It just would have kind of tied it together. And there's also a few sequences in the like fairy tale section of the movie that always like just felt like they felt more fake than they needed to be.
Okay. What do you mean? Like,
so the part when they're on the boat and when they're on, it's Ficini, Indigo and
Inigo
Fezzik.
Montoya.
And they've kidnapped, it's when they're doing all the, like the rhymes and stuff like that. And they're on the boat and like she jumps into the water and it's the eels, and the eels are creepy as hell. But it has always felt like in that water, I have always had the feeling that like they're on a soundstage. They're on like there's just something about, I don't know if it's the lighting or just the fact that it doesn't feel like the water goes on.
The water is very still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very still, and that's one of those things that's like always, I think, taken me out of it. But
interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So the story that is being read, The Princess Bride, it starts off with Buttercup, who is, she has a, I guess, wealthy enough family who owns a farm, wealthy enough to have a farmhand.
What's interesting?
She seems she seems just like a privileged girl.
I never got the impression that there was a family there. I always got the impression it was like she just kind of lived there and like she just lived on this farm, and didn't apparently need to like do anything to make money, and she just had this dude there to do everything.
For all we know, that's what it was.
It would make more sense if we had that, like, either it had been her parents, like that there was some sort of larger estate, because all we see is like the little like farmhouse where she's like, and she just like, she wants a pitcher. She gets a pitcher.
Fetch me that pitcher.
Fetch me that pitcher, farm boy. And I don't, but she does act privileged. Like, so that would make sense, but it never occurred to me that, I mean, like, I'm sure she had parents, but I would never thought that, like,
there's no proof of them.
No. Other than her.
Other than her. You would think like when Humperdinck announces that she's going to be his wife, he'd be like, oh, and these are her wonderful parents. It's like, nope, it's just this person who just exists in the world.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so at the beginning she has this farmhand, Wesley, and after they fall in love and are starting the kissing scenes or the kissing parts of the book, that's when Wesley goes off. He's traveling off to go work elsewhere.
Or he has to go. There's some. There's definitely an explanation, because I was wondering that as I was watching the movie, and I was like, I don't remember why exactly he leaves, but there was some purpose stated. I forget what it is.
Yeah, he's just like, I need to go somewhere where there's people who can pay me to do this, because right now it's just you and you're a person and you've got nothing but a pitcher and a horse.
And we only just got to first base, so I'm not feeling tied down yet.
To our knowledge.
That's true. Maybe Peter Falk skips.
He's like, oh, I'm just going to flip past that.
Well, you didn't want the kissing scenes. I guess you didn't want the banging either. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Ooh, boy, you're only 10.
Yeah.
So...
As you wish.
Yeah, so then it kind of says like 5 years later, and then Prince Humperdinck, whose father is old and very ill, he announces that he is going to be marrying a commoner, and he announces that it's going to be Buttercup. And that is kind of where things really take off, because then she is kidnapped by the aforementioned Inigo Montoya, Vizzini, and Fezzik, led by Vizzini, Wallace Shawn's character. And the plot there is that they are trying to make Humperdinck, so they live in Florin, and they're trying to make Humperdinck think that Florin's nemesis, which is Gilder,
right,
is the ones that kidnapped her, because he wants to incite a war between Florin and Gilder. And by the way, here in Portland, we have a wonderful coffee shop named Gilder that is Princess Bride themed. So check it out.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course
it's a
there is
really
in
great.
Portland.
It's a really great coffee shop, and a really clever.
Yeah,
I don't know, theme.
Well,
it's not like over the top.
Gilder and Florins are like old units of money. I'm pretty sure.
That's true. Yeah. I forget where they're from, but
Italian. Well, apparently Vizzini is Sicilian, even though he speaks like
we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so he's trying to incite a war between the two nations, which is something I certainly didn't pick up on as a kid, but that's the whole plan. And the idea is always really to eventually kill her, because he just wants to rile things up. Yeah. So, it's really bizarre, his motive for all, like,
but
what his motive is, really.
But I mean, and I guess spoiler alert, skip to the end, but isn't it then revealed that Humperdinck set it up?
Right. Humperdinck
to start a war. It's kind of like if Bush planned 9/11 just so that he could attack Iraq.
Wink.
George
anyway.
W. Bush did a lot of awful things. I'm okay. I'm not going to go into 9/11.
No, we're not. That's a different episode. When you talk about United 93. Just kidding.
I will say this. This is all we will say about United. No, but because you brought it up, I will say this about United 93. It is an incredible film. I can never, ever, ever watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, incredibly powerful movie. Anyway, that's all we are going to say about United 93 on this podcast.
About United 93.
Yeah.
Right. So, Vizzini, Inigo Montoya, and we'll talk about that unit for just a second. So Vizzini tells Buttercup that they are lost circus performers, but that's just the conceit to get her attention for a few minutes while they kidnap her. But so he is just this con man criminal, and Montoya is a recovering alcoholic who has been trying to seek vengeance for his father's death at the hands of Count Rugen, the six-fingered man.
He doesn't know Count Rugen's name. He just knows his father was murdered by a six-fingered man.
When Inigo was just 11 years old, and he tried to fight the six-fingered man, but he was just a child, and Rugen gave him scars on either side of his face, and he's been seeking revenge ever since, which has driven him into alcoholism, and the only person who can save him is Vicini, I guess. So there's that.
The only person who will hire him, yeah.
The only person who will hire him, and but he's keeping him sober, essentially, somehow. And
I think Fezzik's keeping him sober, I think.
Well, right. Well, and as we see later on in the movie, Fezzik is the one who nurses Montoya back to health after he dips back into alcoholism. But Fezzik is, what's his backstory?
You know, they don't, and I haven't read the novel, but I've heard that the novel kind of establishes that more. Isn't he was unemployed in Greenland?
Pretty much, yeah. Like,
He's
nobody would hire him. He is indeed a giant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the three of them have kidnapped Buttercup. They're sailing in the completely still seas and that are riddled with these crazy eels. And they are being followed by Dread Pirate. What's his name?
Dread Pirate Roberts.
Dread Pirate Roberts, of course. Dread Pirate Roberts, who, as we come to find out, is actually Wesley. The details of how he became Dread Pirate Roberts are a little.
Oh,
I mean, he spells it out.
Yeah,
he explains it, but I'm just like, that's kind of like bogus, especially because he's talking about it in terms of like why he hasn't come back for Buttercup, and it's like, you've had the opportunity. Come on, man. So
I mean, yeah, I guess eventually, but does he really have the opportunity before I mean, we don't need to really dig in deep for this, but like, does he really have? I don't think he really has much opportunity.
Well, he's not coming to get Buttercup to free her. He's essentially coming after Buttercup to chastise her for lying because she said that she would like only ever love Wesley. So when he finds her, he's like about to beat her until she explains that she's only with him because she's forced into it. So seriously, that's what happens in the movie. I'm not making it up.
No,
he raises her hand and says like, you lied. You said you only believed in one true love. And she's like, I don't love Humperdinck. But
I guess.
That's why he's after her, is to like punish her.
Okay.
I'm not making that up. That is in the movie.
I think he just wants to give her a little shit before, like, they get back together.
But that is not cool. That is not cool shit to give.
No, I don't
know how things are done in Florin, but here in the United States of America, we do things a little differently.
Okay.
Don't do that. Well, anyway, so this is the part of the movie that I think people remember most is Wesley as the man in black, coming after Fezzik, Vicini, and Inigo Montoya, and
that sword fight with
defeating
Inigo Montoya.
It's amazing. It's excellent. Well, also just like climbing up that cliff. Like, that's really cool. And then, of course, that leads to the really incredible sword fight, which is so fun because it's so friendly. They both admire each other so much, and they're just like, I'm so sorry that I have to kill you.
I think it's like known as like the chatty, the chapter on the Blu-ray is like the chatty duelists or something like that.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a really fun scene to watch. They're both such engaging actors, and I mean, the sword fight itself is, I don't know, pretty remarkable. There's the whole deceit from each of them that they're not actually left-handed, which is a lot of fun.
But I mean, and if you think about it, like they didn't really use like stunt people. Like they did that all themselves. And that was, I mean, I think pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then once Wesley defeats Inigo Montoya, and he tells the story about his father and the Six-Fingered Man, we move on to Fezzik, who essentially just gets choked out after being having Wesley on his back and throat for a little while.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's also pretty chatty.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, it's like both Andre and Inigo are both like, hey, we don't want to do anything. It's like, we're doing this because it's our job. Right.
And then, of course, there's the battle of wits between Vicini and Wesley, which the results. And by the way, sorry if I'm spoiling things for people, but you've had plenty of time to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So essentially, Vicini dies in the battle of wits because he's poisoned, having to choose between the two glasses of wine, one of which is poisoned, when in fact we learn afterwards that both glasses were poisoned, and Wesley has just built up a tolerance to the poison, which I forget the name of the poison itself, but it's supposed to be like flavorless and odorless, and
not iodine, but something like that.
It's something like that, yeah. And it's kind of like, you have only been not a farmhand for 5 years. That's not a very long time, and you've just been like slowly microdosing this like crazy poison. That's a little nuts.
It's been a busy, hey.
It's
not everything needs to make sense, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I guess we also don't know if they consider a year to be the same thing that we consider a year to be. Maybe
I'm pretty sure this is set on Earth.
But it's set in fictional nations. It's like, who knows?
He does reference Sicily, though. Yeah, it's weird. Like
that's true. It takes place on Earth, but who knows?
There's this odd like combination of the fantastical and the realistic, because I mean, I don't know. Look, maybe it is on a different planet where Sicilians sound like Wallace Shawn.
Yeah. That is true.
Not letting that shit go.
Yeah, or a Spaniard is actually a Jew from Chicago.
Though, I mean, I don't know. I'm not Spanish, but surprise. But whatever accent he is doing, if that's like an authentic Spanish regional accent, that's awesome. Otherwise, like, he does stick to it.
Yeah, he does. Wallace Shawn does something different, but that's okay. And
Andre's just Andre. It doesn't matter.
Oh, he's Andre the Giant. He can do whatever he wants.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't want to tell the whole plot of the movie. We've been going into it long enough.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
But John, would this be the time? Because I think I did some. I did some soul searching while I was watching it, and
did you really?
Yeah, but you know what? Because it's like I always felt like, man, what am I missing with this movie? That like I like it.
You clearly don't love this movie.
I love parts of it, but there's other things that just they make my brain stop and say, wait a minute. Like, okay, for instance, when Buttercup has the nightmare. When she's announced
boo,
boo, you had true love. Yeah. So it's a little interesting that that Peter Falk's narration doesn't introduce this as a dream, because if this was a book, like an actual book, that would just be really confusing, because it's like, wait a second, is the king dead? Is he not dead? Because it's set up very
right,
like realistically. There's no like there's no effect
It's not
added
just,
to make it.
it's not only from her perspective.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it like that definitely always that bothered me. And I like, I don't know how you also like also in her dream, that crown is huge. That crown is like the size of her head. Yeah. But yeah, that always kind of, I don't know, that always kind of bothered me. Also, it's like Humperdinck when she's like, all right, so he's got Wesley locked up in the pit of despair, and she doesn't know that. The pit of despair. Mel Smith.
You'll never get out alive.
I have no problems with Mel Smith in this movie.
Oh, he's so good.
He's amazing.
He's so good. And Carol Kane is also very good.
Carol Kane's and Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal's great.
The performances, I take no issue with the performance. Even while as Sean is, it doesn't bother me that much. But so when Humperdinck's got Wesley locked up, and she thinks that, oh, he's like back on his ship, and oh, if he doesn't come back, then he doesn't want me. And she's just like, she keeps telling Humperdinck, she's like, oh, well, you know, I love him, and like, screw you, and I don't want to marry you. And he gets all worked up. And I know maybe this is a character thing, but to me, it didn't make sense that he would go like that at some point from the castle to the pit of despair, like on that walk. Would he not cool down to the point where he's like, oh, all right, well, whatever. It's not like he cares. He doesn't love her. He's planning, spoiler alert, he's planning on killing her anyway.
I think that just to step into Humperdinck's mind for a bit and his emotions, I think that he's more reacting to the idea that anybody would not want to be married to him.
But he plays it so cool. Like it's not long after that or before that where he's just like, oh yeah, no, too bad I'm gonna have to kill her. Like, but you know, that's what you gotta do. And I'm not just saying this, I'm not just looking for this, but does it seem like there's something with Humperdinck and Count Rugen? Like, is this a Sheriff of Nottingham, Guy of Gisborne thing? Like, are they cousins? Or like what? There's just, yeah, I don't know. It kind of struck me. I was like, these two seem to have a real relationship.
It definitely seems like Rugen has, I don't know, some feelings about Humperdinck that are beyond professionalism. Whatever that is, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, and just an interesting, and I saw this online, and I can't help but sharing it. So since Christopher Guest as Count Rugen has 6 fingers on one hand, his number of fingers goes all the way to 11, just like the amp in This Is Spinal Tap that his character has. So, yeah. But yeah, that was so like that was one of the things that kind of bugged me. The score in places.
The score sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like when Inigo Montoya faces Count Rugen, it's a little too like synthy for me, and that's like a really.
The entire thing sounds like it's done one person on a keyboard.
Yeah, I expect better from the musical mind behind Dire Straits. I mean, the man wrote Walk of Life.
There you go.
Come on.
Yeah. We talked about this in the last episode about how it should just be rescored.
Yeah. And that was French Fry Phil threw that one out there. So,
was that French Fry Phil?
I want to say,
right.
Yeah. He definitely shot us an email about that. But all right. So, qualms aside, though, and by the way, they definitely took a page out of Romeo and Juliet. Her whole like threatening to commit suicide.
Right.
That's when Juliet says that she'd rather kill herself than marry Count Paris. Of course, no one else knows she's married to Romeo or loves Romeo except for her nurse, but that's another story for another time. So but it was like it's such a move, and also when she thinks that Wesley's dead and she's actually about to kill herself, and then Carrie Elwes has his famous line that he still remembers.
Oh, right.
About the perfect breasts. Like, yeah, I was like, oh, very Romeo and Juliet. Never really caught that one before. But, yeah, so I don't know, John, do you really see what benefits would you see in remaking this? I don't mean like any other type of like spinning it off for sequel or whatever, but in a remake, what possibility? And this is Sony Pictures that has the rights, because I was like, I felt like I needed to double check that, because I was like, well, if Fox had the rights to it, which they probably did at some point, then Disney would have the rights to it, and then, well, okay.
Right.
It's on.
Yeah. I mean, remaking it, I don't think that it should be remade, and that's not because of any ruining anything reasons. It's just that it's, not that great. Like, I don't think that it's really a story that is worth revisiting.
Yeah, I think that's where I stand.
think there are aspects of it that I think are worth, I don't know, fleshing out a little bit. There are certainly things that I would want to see. I mean, the things that I could think would be a Wesley and Buttercup TV series, kind of following up things several years later.
Buttercup loves Wesley?
Well, the thing is,
Babalu? Lowell?
the thing is, it would give her a chance. Are you talking about
Joni
Lowell
loves
Gans and
Lowell
yeah,
Gans and
Babalu Mandel? It would give Buttercup a chance to be less of an object, because in The Princess Bride, that's all she is. Yeah. She is just this pawn that's being moved around, and that everyone's trying to claim ownership over. And
would you also include some context as to like who exactly she is and why she has a farm boy to help her on her little like shack? It doesn't even have doors.
No, she's just a private teenager with no adults around.
Yeah.
She's just, she emancipated from her parents.
I'm getting vaccinated, damn it.
So, yeah, I don't know.
As you wish.
I feel like if there was some sort of sequel or follow-up series with the two of them, like, doing things together, going on little mini adventures.
What if they both become Dread Pirate Roberts? Like, what if they
could,
like,
because as you know, Dread Pirate Roberts is just a title.
And and then that's also like a story that I feel like could be told, is because he's not the first Dread Pirate Roberts. The Dread Pirate Roberts that got him wasn't the original Dread Pirate Roberts. So there's like, you could do an anthology series of like each different Dread Pirate Roberts, how they became the Dread Pirate Roberts. You could do a different season for each one. You could do a different episode for each one.
Totally.
You could do a different movie for each one. But yeah, as far as a,
I've got another thing.
Oh, do you now?
I would want to see a prequel about Domingo Montoya, Inigo Montoya's father, who was another incredible swordsman, and I would cast an actual Spaniard, Javier Bardem.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Antonio Banderas.
No, I feel like he's too old.
He's too old
to have had like an 11-year-old child, at the,
I guess, yeah.
End of his life.
No. But then wouldn't Javier Bardem be too old?
I think he would be older, and I don't know how much older Antonio Banderas is than Javier Bardem, but Javier Bardem is younger. Plus, Javier Bardem is awesome. So
he is awesome. Oh, but what about Oscar Isaac?
He's not from Spain.
He is not a Spaniard. No,
I want to see. I feel like representation matters, and when I know that this is something that, back in the 80s wasn't considered because they're just like, Sicilian, how about that guy, from New York, or, clearly they chose a giant to play a giant. So representation in the giant world, perfect. But at least when it comes to nationalities, it's like we're living in a time where we have actors from all over the place, and those people should be represented by people from those actual countries.
And it's funny because I was trying to think of like, okay, if they were going to do a remake of this, who would be a good Vicini that would perhaps be a little more authentic. And it was funny because at first I was like, Danny DeVito, but Roberto Benigni.
Well, Danny DeVito was I guess the person they wanted to play Vicini.
Yes,
I saw that. Roberto Benigni.
I said Roberto Benigni. Yeah, why not? Like, I only saw him in Life is Beautiful, but
most people
and I think
did.
I saw him in
too.
Coffee and Cigarettes, the Jim Jarmusch
Oh, right,
film.
yeah.
But yeah, Roberto Benigni. Yeah, I really liked him. So I don't know, but yeah, there's no. That's the thing though, is even with those inaccuracies, it's hard for me to say, oh, like I could see them doing this in a different way because there's certain characters that
It's less about inaccuracies and more about representation.
Well, no, yes, I agree with that, but it's just I don't think I want to see another actor as Inigo Montoya.
Right, which is...
As Domingo Montoya, no problemo.
Exactly. Yeah. What I find interesting about things like prequels where you know how the person dies and who kills them is that it kind of takes away some of the stakes because like, oh, well, I know this person's going to survive because let's face it. It's, watching any prequel about a character who's, that they live because they end up being in, the original.
Because they're in, which is where I think the Dread Pirate Roberts series, I think, because you really don't know the whole history of the Dread Pirate Roberts is. And actually, I do want to say there were some proposed sequels, and apparently the U.S. Copyright Office has a few sequels registered. The Swordmaster Bride, which was registered in 1993. In 1999, there was a screenplay registered called The Pirate Groom, which is they're both supposed to be sequels, but nothing ever happened with them. Clearly, obviously,
yeah.
So, I think you could definitely expand the world. I think if you really wanted to capitalize on the popularity of The Princess Bride, there are ways to do it without remaking the film and without making a sequel that's kind of like it's just going to come off as a cash grab. Whereas I think if you actually find the other stories that can be told, like what about tell Fezzik's backstory? Like sadly, Andre's passed now for over 25 years.
Yeah.
So we can accept another actor as Fezzik, and there are a lot of other stories to be told out of this. I mean, Domingo Montoya, you could have the Domingo Montoya story take place, years before he ever encounters Rugen. You could have it,
yeah. It wouldn't necessarily end with his death.
Right, exactly. I mean, you could. It's just like, hey, all right, whenever it's time to end it, it's okay. Now we introduce the Six-Fingered Man.
By the way, I wanted to just take this opportunity to plug a friend's graphic novel. My friend Box Brown wrote this great graphic novel about Andre the Giant. It's called Andre the Giant: Life and Legend. Dan, did I get that for you? Yeah.
Actually, no. I've looked at it at your house.
Oh,
and never
I sent it to you.
Borrowed it or no.
Oh, well, anyway,
but yeah,
it's fantastic.
I gotta read.
He's also written I don't graphic novels isn't right because they're nonfiction, but so graphic nonfiction, I guess is what you would call it. But he also wrote one about the history of the game Tetris and the delegalization of marijuana or cannabis. I forget exactly what the title is. And he wrote one about Andy Kaufman. Did I send you that one?
No, I
I could
remember
have sworn I
hearing
did. Maybe I
about
meant
them.
to.
Yeah, it's okay. Look, I mean, there's always a suitcase full of things that I'm like, oh yeah, I meant to send you this 2 years ago. Here's a birthday card I never sent you 2 years ago.
Well, I'm excited to check out my Die Hard Year One graphic novels that you gave me, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh, and you can also check out Robin Wright in the movie White Oleander with Michelle Pfeiffer, who is in The Witches of Eastwick with Susan Sarandon, who is in Lorenzo's Oil.
That's a great thing that you can do. Good plug. Good plug.
I have nothing. I have nothing. I have nothing better. It's been really difficult trying to, because I flaked. I got so excited that I thought I had a great 6 degrees of Lorenzo's Oil for the episode we were initially going to do for this episode.
Right. That's going to be the next episode.
Yeah.
Before news broke.
Yeah, but before news broke.
Before the internet went wild.
Yeah, before the internet broke over Princess Bride. And by the way, John, I have to ask you, have you been to any weddings where someone at some point, whether it's the officiant or someone making a speech, has done the marriage bit?
I don't think so, but it seems like such an easy thing to witness. Well, this movie is one of the most quotable movies.
Yeah, but I want to say that quote in that context never need be rebooted again.
Oh, no, totally.
Yeah, I'm just because I'm like, I've been to at least 2, and that was, I'm like, no, it's too, too easy.
That line works great in the movie, said as it is.
By Peter Cook.
Right. But have fun storming the castle. Perfect as is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Princess
that's
Bride.
That's what I've got for Princess Bride.
Yeah. Oh, you know who I was thinking though would be a good Count Rugen in a remake? Tom Hiddleston. Wouldn't he be a good Count Rugen?
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't really think about any like recasts for this one because I wasn't really thinking remake.
I was like, I wish you could cast a Daniel Day-Lewis circa 2000 as Humperdinck.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I would love to see Patton Oswalt as Vicini, but just to see Patton Oswalt as Vicini and not seriously.
Yeah, but yeah.
Like it would just it would kind of be the same. All due respect to Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt wouldn't make it the same. He would put a spin on it.
I honestly don't think he would do it though. I don't think he would take the job.
Right. I don't know. I guess I could see like for Wesley, someone like Tom Holland.
A Tom Holland. I was thinking like a Charlie Hunnam, but Charlie Hunnam might be too old.
Too
now.
old. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Charlie Hunnam of 10 years ago, perhaps, or
probably more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, 15 years ago. A bit like early Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
Well, more like around 2000, was it 2003 or 4 when he did Undeclared?
Oh, Undeclared? I think Undeclared was 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah. I keep forgetting he was on that show.
Oh, yeah. He was the charming British guy.
Yeah.
That was his thing.
I just don't associate him with comedy, probably because I watched Sons of Anarchy. So...
Well, why don't we talk about our next movie? Oh, you've got something.
No,
our next movie. Yeah.
No, I don't. Our next movie, 1988's Academy Award winner for Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor, Dustin Hoffman, who was in Moonlight Mile with Susan Sarandon, who was in Lorenzo's Oil.
You got to jump on it. You got to jump on
you
it.
were a little early this week. So, yeah, that's right. We're talking about Rain Man.
I'm very excited.
Yeah, as am I. It's time to revisit Rain Man and see what there is, what possibilities Rain Man has in store for us.
Well, it's going to be an episode of two brothers talking about two brothers, and oh boy, what a treat it will be.
Definitely can be a treat. Yeah.
We have to be very careful.
No, I know. Well, that's part of what we're going to have to talk about. And that is another story for another time. Good journey, John.
Good journey, Dan.
All right. The Princess Bride.
Hold it. What is this? Is this a kissing book?
True love is the greatest thing. True love. Significant boss. You hippopotamic landmass.
You like to slam at us.
Brainless help.